Hello everyone, have a nice evening. Enjoy a good ghost story with the gentle sound of rain from BLACKRIDGE Stories, and sleep well. If you find these stories interesting, please subscribe and comment for me. Thank you very much everyone, and now, without keeping you waiting any longer, let's go to part 1 of the story, the Pali Monster. There are places where the veil between worlds seems thinner, places where shadows linger longer, and whispers carry on the wind. One such place is Pali Highway, a twisting road carved into the cliffs of Oʻahu, Hawaii, where dense forests press in from all sides and mist drapes the asphalt like a shroud. Local legends warn travelers not to drive this road at night, especially alone. They speak of a presence, of something old and angry, waiting in the dark. Tonight's story is about the Pali Monster, a terrifying entity that haunts this treacherous stretch of road, said to be the spirit of an ancient beast, bound to the cliffs by violence and grief. The setting, a dangerous road. The Pali Highway connects Honolulu to the windward side of the island, cutting through the lush and mountainous terrain of the Kula Range. During the day, it's a scenic route with sweeping views of the ocean and valleys below. But after sunset, the road becomes something else entirely. The wind howls between the cliffs, fog rolls in thick and fast, and strange things begin to happen. Locals claim that at night, drivers often experience a sudden chill, even when the air is warm. The radio cuts out, headlights flicker, and some have even reported seeing a dark figure flash past their passenger side window. Just a blur, as if someone is running alongside the car. But when they look again, there's no one there. The legend, an ancient curse. According to Hawaiian mythology, the cliffs around the Pali once witnessed a terrible battle. Warriors fought here in blood-soaked clashes, and it's believed that the restless spirits of the fallen still roam. But one legend stands out. They say that long ago, there was a creature, half man, half beast, who lived in the caves carved deep into the rock face. It was born of rage and sorcery, and fed on the fear of others. The villagers feared it so much that they trapped it inside a stone tomb, sealing it with chants and symbols known only to the kahuna, or priests. But time erodes all things, even sacred seals. Some believe the monster spirit escaped, bound not to its cave, but to the road itself. Now it seeks vengeance, not just for its imprisonment, but for being forgotten. The first encounter, a chilling drive. The following account comes from a woman named Lena, who had no knowledge of the legend when she took the Pali Highway one late night after a work shift. I was tired, she recalled, but it wasn't that far. The fog had rolled in thick, and I could barely see 10 feet ahead. I turned down the radio because it was crackling, and that's when I noticed something strange. The air inside the car turned freezing cold. She swears she heard footsteps running alongside her car, even though she was going nearly 40 miles per hour. I thought maybe it was the wind, she said, but then I saw it, a face pressed up against the passenger side window, pale, with eyes that weren't human, just empty. She slammed the brakes, but when she looked again, the face was gone, just fog and trees. She didn't sleep for days after that. The pattern, repeated sightings. Lena's story isn't unique. Over the years, dozens of similar stories have emerged, forming a pattern. Sightings often occur between midnight and 3 a.m. The figure is always seen on the right side of the vehicle. Electronics, especially radios and GPS, malfunction. Many report whispers, or even hearing their name being called softly. What's most disturbing is that several drivers who've ignored the signs, who laughed off the chill, or kept driving without stopping, have later crashed or reported strange nightmares for weeks. Some even claim the spirit followed them home. The warning, don't carry pork. In Hawaiian culture, there's also a superstition tied to this area. Never carry pork over the Pali Highway at night. It's believed that doing so angers the gods, particularly Pele, the goddess of fire and volcanoes. According to legend, Pele and the demigod Kamapua, a pig god, were bitter enemies. Taking pork across the highway, symbolically bringing Kamapua into Pele's territory, invites supernatural retaliation. Some believe the Pali Monster is a manifestation of this feud, an echo of ancient conflict, still playing out in spectral form. A new theory, more than just a ghost. More recently, paranormal researchers have suggested that the Pali monster may not be a ghost at all, but rather something older, something that predates human memory. They cite its animalistic behavior, its apparent hatred of technology, and its ability to disrupt electronic fields. Could it be some form of elemental spirit bound to the landscape? Or is it something even darker? A tulpa, perhaps, born from the fears and stories passed down over generations? Whatever the truth, the consensus remains clear. Do not travel the Pali Highway at night alone. Closing, the mystery remains. Whether a vengeful ghost, a mythical creature, or a living curse, the Pali monster continues to haunt the imagination of those who know the road. To some, it's just a tale. To others, it's a terrifying memory. So next time you find yourself driving through dense fog on a mountain road, check your passenger window. And if you feel a sudden chill, or hear something whisper your name, don't look, because some stories are best left unseen. Let's move on to part 2 of the story, the ghost woman of Puʻu. In the heart of Hawaii's volcanic wilderness, far from bustling resorts and tourist trails, lies a place where few dare to wander after dark. This is Puʻu, a volcanic cone deep within the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, known for its violent eruptions and something far more chilling. Local legends speak of a ghostly woman in white, a spirit who roams the dense rainforest near the base of the mountain. She's known simply as the Ghost Woman of Puʻu, and many believe she lures travelers into the woods, never to be seen again. The setting, a volcano shrouded in mystery. Puʻu is not just any volcano. It's part of the Kilauea system, one of the most active volcanic regions on Earth. Its long eruptions and flowing lava have reshaped the land, and according to native lore, it has also awakened old spirits. Surrounding the cone is a labyrinth of twisted trees, thick ferns, and mist-drenched trails that are easy to get lost in. Rangers warn visitors never to hike alone, and never after dark. But it's not just for safety. It's because of her, the woman in white, the legend, the ghost in the forest. Stories of the Puʻu ghost woman go back generations. She's described as tall and pale, with long black hair and a flowing white gown, glowing faintly under the moonlight. She appears near the tree line, silently watching hikers before melting into the woods. The strangest part, hikers often report feeling drawn to her, as if something compels them to follow, even when they know they shouldn't. Some return, confused and disoriented. Others never do. A true account, the disappearance of Thomas and Ellie. In 2009, couple Thomas Kim and Ellie Monroe set out on an unofficial hike near Puʻu. Their route wasn't listed on any park maps. According to friends, Thomas had heard rumors of a secret trail that led to a viewpoint untouched by tourists. They never returned. A week later, Ellie's phone was found on a moss-covered rock several miles from their last known location. Authorities combed the area but found nothing else. No footprints, no belongings. Only one ranger, a man named Kawaiahaʻo, reported something odd. "I heard laughter," he said. Soft, like a woman's voice, echoing through the trees. But there was no one around. Just birds and fog. The pattern, always a woman in white. Similar stories have emerged over the years, always with eerily consistent details. A woman dressed in white appears at dusk or during foggy nights. She never speaks, but she always stares directly at the witness. Those who follow her often get lost or experience strange time lapses. A few survivors report missing hours or even days, with no memory of what happened. In one instance, a teenager who wandered off the trail during a school hike was found 20 hours later, barefoot and shivering. He insisted he had only been gone for 10 minutes and described a beautiful woman with no eyes. The theory, a spirit of nature or a warning. Local elders believe the ghost woman is a guardian spirit tied to the volcano, perhaps a manifestation of Pele herself, the Hawaiian goddess of fire. Others say she's the ghost of a lost traveler, someone who perished in the forest and now tries to lead others to the same fate. Still, another theory is far darker, that the woman isn't a ghost at all, but a mimic, a paranormal entity that appears human, but is anything but. These creatures, often found in folklore across the world, are said to imitate people to lure victims into the wild, never to return. Whatever the truth, one fact remains. Her appearances are always followed by disappearances. The warning signs: don't follow her. Several hikers who claim to have seen her survived only because they resisted the urge to follow. One man, Carlos Pena, described his encounter. "I saw her at the edge of the trail," he said. "She was barefoot, her dress soaking wet even though it hadn't rained. She looked at me and tilted her head, like she was asking me to come. But something in his gut screamed no. He turned and ran, and swears that for several minutes. He heard footsteps chasing him through the brush. I never saw her again," he said, "but I still dream about her. Sometimes I wake up and my bedroom smells like wet leaves and sulfur." Folklore and fire, Pele's domain. In Hawaiian belief, the lands around Puʻu are considered sacred. Disrespecting the land, stealing stones, or mocking the spirits is said to invite misfortune. Some believe the ghost woman is a form of punishment, a test for those who enter without reverence. Interestingly, in the months before major eruptions, there are often spikes in reported sightings. Could her appearance be a harbinger of volcanic activity? One geologist noted that days before the 2018 eruption, multiple rangers mentioned seeing a tall woman in white walking along the crater's edge. Closing, the forest still waits. Today, Puʻu is less accessible, but the stories haven't stopped. Park rangers continue to share whispers of odd lights, missing time, and ghostly sightings. Tourists who stray from the path still occasionally vanish for hours, sometimes days. Whether she is a ghost, a guardian, or something else entirely, the ghost woman of Puʻu remains a chilling reminder that some places are not meant to be explored. So if you find yourself near the base of a volcano, and the fog begins to rise, and you catch sight of a white dress fluttering through the trees, whatever you do, don't follow. Because some spirits don't want company. They want you. Let's come to part 3 of the story, the ghost of Captain James Cook. When Captain James Cook arrived in the Hawaiian Islands in 1778, he was hailed by many as a great explorer, a navigator who had crossed the vast Pacific with the precision of a master sailor. But by the following year, in 1779, Cook would meet his violent death on the shores of Kealakekua Bay, stabbed and beaten by the very people who once welcomed him. Since that fateful day, whispers have lingered among the islanders. They speak of a ghost, a pale figure dressed in naval garb, who wanders the beach under the moonlight, forever seeking something. Perhaps redemption, perhaps a return home. This is the tale of the ghost of Captain James Cook. Setting, the Bay of Spirits. Kealakekua Bay, nestled on the Big Island of Hawaii, is known for its clear blue waters and towering cliffs. But beneath its beauty lies a deep history of betrayal, bloodshed, and some say, unresolved spirits. Local fishermen refuse to cast their nets after dark, and tour guides avoid the beach once the sun dips behind the cliffs. They say that's when he appears. The first sightings, a man from another time. Shortly after Cook's death, native Hawaiians began reporting visions of a strange man walking the shoreline. He wore a red officer's coat, tall black boots, and carried a spyglass, though his eyes were said to be hollow, and his face was sometimes hidden in shadow. According to one 19th century missionary's journal, a boy claimed to have seen a white man with a sword glowing under the moon, speaking in a tongue he could not understand. The missionaries dismissed it as fantasy, but the reports never stopped. The curse, a death without peace. Historians suggest Cook's violent end may have led to his restless spirit. After an argument over a stolen boat, he attempted to kidnap a Hawaiian chief, hoping to hold him as ransom. The plan failed. A confrontation broke out, and Cook was killed on the beach, his blood mixing with the sand and salt. Some believe his soul was trapped, never given a proper burial in his homeland, nor honored by the people who once followed him. And so he wanders, caught between worlds. A fisherman's tale, the night watch. One of the most chilling accounts comes from fisherman named Kimo, who lived near Kealakekua Bay in the 1970s. He often fished late into the night, trusting his instincts and the rhythm of the ocean. One foggy evening, Kimo anchored his boat near the shore. As he cast his line, he saw a figure standing on the rocks, a man in an antique British uniform, staring out to sea. "I thought it was a tourist playing dress-up," Kimo recalled. But then he turned, and he had no eyes, just dark holes. I couldn't move. Suddenly, the figure raised his arm and pointed straight at me. I dropped my rod, started the engine, and left. I never fished there again. The patterns when he appears. Eyewitness accounts often share common themes. The ghost is always seen near the water, never inland. He appears mostly on moonlit nights or during heavy fog. He never speaks, but always stares, as if watching or judging. Animals react strangely in his presence. Dogs whimper, and birds go silent. Some say if you look into his face long enough, you'll hear the sound of cannon fire, or the creaking of wooden ships, even though the ocean is still. Modern encounters, the tourist who vanished. In 2004, tourist from New Zealand, Aaron Reed, went missing while snorkeling alone near the Captain Cook Monument, the very place believed to mark where Cook was killed. His friends reported that he'd become obsessed with the story. He spent hours reading old logs, asking locals about the ghost, and even slept near the bay one night with a recorder. The next morning, he was gone. His gear was found on the rocks. His recording device contained only static until the final seconds. Then, a voice could be faintly heard in a heavy British accent. I warned them, and now I am alone. Aaron was never found. Theories, guilt, revenge, or duty. Scholars and spiritualists have debated what keeps Captain Cook's ghost tethered to the island. Some say he's searching for his crew, lost to time. Others believe he's cursed to walk the beach for his crimes. A spirit of colonization doomed to witness the land he tried to claim. A few elders think he guards something, a relic, a secret, or a doorway between worlds. One only knows how to open, but one theory stands out, that his spirit cannot rest because he died with unfinished business, a sailor lost at sea, never allowed to return home. Folklore and memory, island voices. The native Hawaiian community has mixed feelings about Cook's legacy. For some, he represents an era of invasion and disease, the start of profound loss. For others, he's a part of history, a complex figure now entwined with the land. But nearly all agree on one thing: his ghost remains. They warn children not to walk the beach alone. Elders say if you see a man in red by the water, do not approach. And above all, do not speak to him, no matter what he says. Closing, the figure in the fog. To this day, if you stand quietly near the Captain Cook Monument as the fog rolls in and the waves crash gently against the rocks, you might catch sight of him, a lone figure facing the horizon. And if you do, turn away, because some sailors never reach safe harbor, and some ghosts are not lost. They're waiting. Let's get to part 4 of the story, the ghosts of Kawaiahaʻo Church. In the heart of Honolulu, nestled between modern buildings and busy city streets, stands a church built from coral blocks. Kawaiahaʻo Church, often called the Westminster Abbey of Hawaii. It is a place of worship, history, and deep spiritual roots. But beneath its sacred silence, there are stories that whisper through time. For generations, people have spoken of unseen presences, echoes of footsteps, and disembodied hymns that float through the air when no soul is around. This is the haunting tale of the Kawaiahaʻo Church ghosts. Setting: the Church of Coral and Memory. Constructed in the 1830s, Kawaiahaʻo Church is one of the oldest Christian churches in Hawaii. Its coral block walls, quarried from under the sea by hand, still stand today, weathered but firm. Inside, the air carries the weight of centuries of weddings, funerals, and the sacred silence between. The church was a center of faith during the Hawaiian monarchy, and many members of Hawaiian royalty once prayed here. Several of them are buried on the church grounds, their graves carefully marked under the old trees. But sometimes the past doesn't stay buried. First whispers, the singing in the dark. It often begins with a sound, a soft humming. Late at night, when the city quiets and the moonlight spills through the stained glass, a choir of voices can sometimes be heard from inside the locked building. Harmonies rise and fall, as if from an invisible congregation. The songs are always in Hawaiian, always hymns from centuries past. Church caretakers have reported hearing these songs echoing even when they were the only ones inside. One caretaker named Alika recalled a night in 1992 when he stayed late to lock up. "I was turning off the lights when I heard singing, gentle but clear," he said. It came from the pews. "When I turned around, there was no one there. But the singing didn't stop. It just moved, like the voices were walking through the room." The spirit in the pulpit. Several pastors over the decades have spoken privately about a presence near the pulpit. In 1967, Reverend Kawaiahaʻo reported to church elders that he saw a man in priest's robes standing at the altar late one night, thinking it was a fellow clergyman. He called out, but the man vanished into thin air. Others have reported seeing a figure kneeling in silent prayer, only to fade when approached. These spirits are never violent, but they radiate a stillness so intense it becomes almost overwhelming. Footsteps beneath the floorboards. At night, the church creaks. That's to be expected in an old building, but there's a difference between settling wood and purposeful steps. Visitors walking past on late-night strolls often report hearing footsteps pacing across the wooden floor inside the locked building. Some say the steps are accompanied by the faint clinking of a chain, like an old thurible or ceremonial item being carried down the aisle. A night security guard named Jonah once claimed he heard heels clicking, moving from the back of the church toward the altar. He described the sound as slow, measured, and then suddenly stopping. "I waited for someone to walk out," Jonah said, but no one ever did. Graves that whisper. Behind the church lies a cemetery, shaded by frangipani and plumeria trees. Many of Hawaii's early Christian converts, noble families, and church founders are buried there. Locals say if you walk among the graves at dusk, you might hear soft prayers in Hawaiian. Some claim they've seen shadowy figures in robes move between headstones, only to disappear when followed. A tourist once captured a photo that, when developed, showed a blurred face in a second-story church window. No one had access to that floor at the time. The candle that lit itself. In 2008, a visiting pastor from Maui stayed overnight in the small guest room behind the sanctuary. At around 3 a.m., he awoke to find one of the altar candles burning, even though he had extinguished them before bed. He approached, confused, and as he reached out, the flame winked out on its own. A wave of cold air swept through the room, though the windows were shut tight. The pastor later described the sensation as being watched, but not with anger, more like reverence or expectation. Theories, guardians of the sacred. Spiritual experts believe that the ghosts of Kawaiahaʻo are protectors, not threats. They are said to be the spirits of priests, choir members, and faithful believers who remain tied to the church by devotion, not tragedy. In Hawaiian tradition, the mana or spiritual energy of a place can grow strong over time, especially where love, loss, and legacy intertwine. Kawaiahaʻo, with its royal history and sacred grounds, is believed to be overflowing with mana. This could explain why the spirits here are peaceful, yet undeniably present. A local warning: enter with respect. Hawaiian elders offer a simple warning: don't go looking for ghosts here. Come to pray. Come to remember. They say the church is alive in more ways than one, and those who come with disrespect may not be welcomed by the living or the dead. Many locals still avoid walking too close to the church after dark, but some who are brave enough or faithful enough claim to feel a hand on their shoulder, a soft voice in their ear. You are not alone. Closing, the singing never ends. As dawn approaches, the shadows shrink back, and the church rests again under the morning sun. But the stories remain, and if you ever find yourself passing by Kawaiahaʻo on a quiet night, stop and listen. You might hear the faint rise of a hymn, drifting through time, carried by voices that have never truly left. Because in Kawaiahaʻo Church, faith lives on, and sometimes so do those who once believed. Let's get to part 5 of the story, the ghost of the Puna girl. She drifts with the rain. In the remote, windswept region of Puna, on the eastern side of the big island of Hawaii, The rain doesn't just fall, it lingers. It seeps into the trees, the black volcanic soil, and the memories of the people who live there. Here, beneath the endless clouds and swaying palms, locals speak of a sorrow that refuses to fade. This is the tale of the Puna girl ghost, a spirit tied to the storm, lost in water and still searching for peace. The setting, waters that don't forget. Puna is known for its rugged coastline, lava tubes, and a deep, mystical energy that pulses through its jungles and cliffs. It's a land shaped by fire, but in this story, it's the ocean, not the lava, that holds the sorrow. There's a particular inlet near the village of Kalapana, where the trees grow thick and the shoreline curves like a crescent moon. On clear days, the water glistens with blue-green beauty, but on rainy nights, locals say the ocean becomes haunted. That's when she returns. The tragedy, a life cut short. Many years ago, so long that no one agrees on the exact date, a young woman named Leilani lived in a fishing village along the coast. She was known for her laughter, her kindness, and her love of the sea. She would often take her family's small wooden canoe out into the bay at dawn, gliding across the surface like a bird. But one day, a storm came early. The wind howled without warning, and the waves turned violent. Leilani's canoe was seen tipping, spinning, and finally flipping. Some say she tried to swim back to shore. Others believe the boat struck her head on a rock. Her body was never recovered. Her family waited for days, but the sea never gave her back. The first sightings, a boat that shouldn't float. Years later, during another rainy season, strange things began to happen. Fishermen reported seeing a small canoe drifting silently in the fog, empty, except for a figure sitting completely still. When called out to, the boat would suddenly vanish beneath the surface, leaving no ripple, no trace. One fisherman named Kimo described a chilling experience. I saw her, long black hair, white dress, no paddle, just drifting toward me. But the moment I blinked, she was gone. The water was calm again. The girl in the rain. The sightings became more frequent, always during rainstorms, always near water. Locals tell of a ghostly girl, soaked in white, standing barefoot on the rocks by the shore. Sometimes she's weeping, sometimes singing, her voice barely rising above the sound of the rain. She never speaks to anyone directly. She just looks out to sea, waiting. One couple swore they saw her walking on the surface of the water, her reflection rippling beneath her feet. When they tried to approach, she turned and disappeared in the mist. Strange currents and cold water. Surfers and swimmers near the inlet often describe a sudden drop in water temperature. One moment the ocean is warm, the next a current of icy cold sweeps in, like something ancient moving below. A lifeguard named Malia once rescued a child from the same inlet during a flash storm. She says as she swam back with the boy, she felt a hand on her ankle, pulling her gently, not to drown, but almost to warn her. I looked down and saw nothing, she said, but I swear someone was there with us. A warning or a wound. People in Puna are divided about the ghost. Some believe Leilani's spirit returns to protect others from the same fate, guiding lost swimmers, causing uneasy feelings so people leave before the storm grows. Others say her presence is a reminder of sorrow, a pain that never healed, that she searches for her canoe, or for someone to bring her spirit home. There's a Hawaiian belief that if a person dies in violent or unexpected ways, especially in nature, their mana, their energy, can stay trapped, repeating the final moments over and over until someone helps set them free. The rain ritual. Some Kupuna elders say that on certain nights, if you go to the inlet during a heavy rain, bring a small offering, flowers, a shell, or a lantern, and leave it on the shore. You may see her, but be respectful. Do not call out. Do not take photos. And above all, do not follow her into the water. There are stories of tourists who tried to approach the drifting boat. Some slipped and nearly drowned. Others claimed they lost time, coming back to shore hours later, confused and trembling, with no memory of what happened. A final encounter. A local schoolteacher named Nohea once got caught in a flash flood while driving home. Her car stalled near the inlet, and as water began to rise around her wheels, she said she saw a girl in white, standing under a tree. She didn't say a word, just looked at me. No hay, I recalled. I felt calm, like I was going to be okay. A minute later, a pickup truck stopped behind me and pulled me out, but when I looked back, the girl was gone. Closing, drifting between realms. The ocean has many moods. It can give, can take, and sometimes it keeps. In Puna, the rain still falls. The wind still whispers through the trees. And on some nights, you might see a canoe with no oars, floating where no boat should be. Inside it, a girl waits. Her story is not finished, and maybe neither is her journey. If you ever find yourself near Kalapana during a storm, listen closely. Watch the water, and if you see her, don't follow. Just remember, because some ghosts don't want revenge, they just want to be seen. Let's come to part 6 of the story, the Lele soldier ghost. His war never ended, and neither did his march. On the western shores of Maui, in the district once known as Lele, modern-day Lahaina, there's a forest that whispers. Locals and travelers alike have heard it. The faint echo of marching boots, the rustle of a uniform brushing against leaves, and the eerie sensation that someone is watching, always just behind you. This is the story of the Lele soldier, a spirit said to belong to a warrior who died in a forgotten battle, but whose soul still patrols the forests of Maui, the history, a land of conflict. Long before Lele became a bustling town, it was a strategic stronghold, a prize in the many battles for control of the Hawaiian Islands. In the early 19th century, factions of warriors clashed across Maui as King Kamehameha I fought to unite the islands under one rule. Lele, with its proximity to the sea and elevated forests, became a key battleground. It was during one of these lesser-known skirmishes, deep in the jungle trails inland, that a young warrior, name lost to history, was ambushed and killed. He was said to be a scout, part of a reconnaissance group caught off guard by enemies hiding in the brush. According to legend, he was stabbed from behind, his spirit unable to accept the dishonor of dying without facing his enemy. The first sightings, shadows that salute. For generations, locals have whispered a figure in a tattered uniform, silently wandering the forest trails around Lele. They say he wears a feathered helmet, traditional for warriors of that era, and that his face is always obscured, either by shadows, mist, or something far more unnatural. A hiker named Keahi once recounted, it was late evening, just before the rain. I saw someone standing near a tree, motionless. I thought it was a statue until he turned. No face, just darkness where the face should have been. And then he lifted his hand, as if to salute me. The path of the lost warrior. There's a trail behind the old sugar mill ruins in Lele that locals avoid after sunset. Dogs refuse to enter it. Birds go silent. This trail, they say, is the marching path of the ghostly soldier. Every few weeks, someone will report hearing boots crunching gravel, or the sound of metal scraping stone, like a spear dragging along rock. When investigated, there's nothing there. One woman, a photographer named Erica, set up motion-triggered cameras on that trail for a project. The next morning, her gear had been scattered across the ground. The photos, blurry, distorted, except for one, a tall figure, in 19th century battle gear, standing in the corner of the frame, and no one else had been there. Marching at midnight. The most terrifying encounters happen near midnight, especially when the wind is still. Witnesses claim they hear a single drumbeat, soft, distant, rhythmic. Then, out of the silence, footsteps, one after another, slow and deliberate. But there's never more than one soldier. Just him, marching, watching. An elderly man named Liko, who has lived in Lele for over 70 years, shared this. He's not angry, but he's not at peace. I think he's waiting, maybe for an order that never came, or for someone to relieve him of his duty. Face in the fog, a recurring theme in every account. His face is never clear, whether seen through fog, rain, or dim moonlight. It is always hidden. Some say it's as if the forest itself refuses to show his identity. keeping his pain anonymous, eternal. A group of teens exploring the area one night claimed they caught a glimpse of his face through a broken mirror they carried for fun. He had no eyes, one girl said, just black holes, and he was crying blood. I dropped the mirror and ran. Spiritual significance. In Hawaiian culture, spirits of warriors are not taken lightly. The mana or spiritual power of a soldier who died in battle can linger for centuries, especially if the death was unjust, unexpected, or if proper burial rituals were never performed. Some believe the Lele soldier's spirit became trapped, cursed to roam the jungle in endless vigilance. Without the proper funeral rites or a descendant to honor him, he is doomed to continue his patrol, unaware the war has long since ended. The offering ritual. Some locals suggest that if you must pass through the forest, bring an offering, ti leaves, a lei, or a small piece of food. Leave it on a stone, say a prayer of peace, and do not look back. Those who mock the ritual laugh, call out to him, or worse, challenge him. Report strange side effects, nausea, disorientation, dreams of battle, and even waking up with muddy footprints around their tent or car. The most chilling encounter. In 2009, a park ranger named Daniel was tasked with closing off trails due to a landslide warning. He reported seeing someone standing perfectly still on a narrow path. I yelled, told him the area was closed. He didn't move. I got closer, maybe 20 feet, and then he turned. No face, just a helmet and a dark void. And then, I swear to you, he marched through me. Not past me, through me. I blacked out for a second. When I came to, my shoes were on the wrong feet. Daniel quit the following week. Conclusion, an eternal watch. Some ghosts appear for a moment, tied to grief or vengeance. But the Lele soldier is different. He doesn't cry. He doesn't scream. He simply walks, locked in a rhythm no one else hears, on a mission long forgotten by history. If you ever walk the forest trails of Lele, and the wind grows still, if you hear footsteps that do not match your own, if you feel the urge to look back, don't, because the war may be over, but his duty remains. Let's get to part 7 of the story, the Lihue Park Ghost. Some spirits don't scream, they sigh. Nestled on the island of Kauai, the lush greenery of Lihue Park seems like a serene refuge by day, filled with birdsong, laughter, and families picnicking under the shade of old monkey pod trees. But as the sun sinks below the horizon and shadows stretch long across the grass, the park changes. Locals whisper of a presence that lingers, something that watches from just beyond the tree line. Not angry, but deeply, hauntingly lonely. This is the story of the Lihue Park Ghost, a mystery wrapped in laughter, sorrow, and the restless sighs of the unseen. A land of layers, Lihue's hidden past. Lihue, now the bustling center of commerce and government on Kauai, sits atop layers of ancient ground, home to centuries of native Hawaiian settlements, sacred grounds, and eventually, the sugarcane empire of the 19th century. According to elders in the community, the land that is now Lihue Park was once a burial area, or at the very least, a site where bones were hidden from colonial desecration. Others believe a tragedy occurred there, perhaps a drowning in a nearby stream or the death of a child lost during a plantation-era festival. No records confirm these stories, but the energy of the place is undeniable. First signs, a laugh in the wind. The first documented encounters with the park spirit began in the early 1970s, when children playing on the jungle gyms reported hearing giggling, even when no other kids were nearby. Parents brushed it off, until adults, too, started hearing the same unsettling sound. One man, David, walking his dog one night, told this story. I passed the old swing set and heard a faint laugh, like a little girl. Sweet at first, but then it echoed, like it was coming from multiple directions at once. My dog growled, and then I heard sighing, like someone had been crying all day. Since then, the giggling girl and the sighing spirit have become fixtures in the oral lore of the community. The bench that watches. In the center of the park stand a wooden bench, weather-worn and cracked with age. It faces the largest banyan tree, a tree that, according to a few kahuna, holds deep spiritual resonance. Those who sit on that bench after dark report a curious experience. First, a cold breeze, even when the night is still. Then a shiver, as if someone is walking behind them. And if they stay too long, they hear it. A single, prolonged sigh, inches from their ear, followed by soft, rhythmic footsteps retreating into the grass. Some even claim to feel the bench shift, as if someone else sat beside them. The identity, child or something older. Most encounters point to the presence of a female child spirit, giggling, skipping, running behind trees. But others aren't so sure. Late-night joggers and night shift workers who cut through the park on foot have described a tall figure in the distance, never moving, just standing watching. Its outline flickers like a mirage, and when approached, it vanishes. A woman named Lilani, who works in maintenance at a nearby office, saw it during an early morning cleanup. It looked like a man in outdated clothing, just standing by the tree. I thought he needed help, but when I turned back, he was gone, and in his place, I heard a child giggling from the empty slide behind me. Could the childlike laughter be a trick, a mask for something else? The playground that plays back. One of the park's most haunted areas is its playground, simple equipment. A metal slide, swings, and a jungle gym. But at night, strange things happen. People have reported. Swings moving on windless nights. Slides producing echoing sounds, like feet rushing down them. Faint handprints appearing on foggy surfaces. A night photographer named Ian set up a camera to document wildlife near the park. Instead, he caught something else. A swing moving violently with no visible wind. And in one frame, a blurry, child-sized figure crouching beside the sandbox. The voice recorder experiment. In 2015, a group of paranormal enthusiasts attempted an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, session near the banyan tree. For hours, they heard nothing, but when they played back the audio, they captured. "Do you want to play?" A small, disembodied voice. Then a low sigh, almost a groan. Finally, "You're not my mommy." The voice was described as distorted, not clearly male or female. Some said it sounded like a child, others like something imitating one. Offerings and respect. Today, many locals leave leis, toys, or ti leaves by the banyan tree. Small offerings meant to honor the spirit and keep it at peace. Those who take items from the park, especially small objects like stones or coins, often report unlucky streaks, lost items, broken electronics, or disturbing dreams of crying children. A teacher named Maliko, who took a rock from the park for a class project, returned it days later after waking up each night to the sound of footsteps pacing his living room. Conclusion, a park that breathes. Unlike other haunted locations, the Lihue Park ghost is not violent. It doesn't scream or lash out. It simply lingers, laughs, sighs, watches. Some say it's a lonely child, still waiting for her mother. Others believe it's a mischievous spirit playing eternal games. And a few warn it could be something older, using joy and innocence to lure attention and something else. So if you visit Lihue Park after dark and hear a laugh behind you, or feel a soft sigh against your ear, remember, don't speak, don't turn around, and never answer when someone asks, "Do you want to play?" Let's get to part 8 of the story, the ghost guide of Mauna Kea. Even in death, some never stop guiding, rising above the sea of clouds at 13,796 feet. Mauna Kea stands as Hawaii's tallest mountain, a sacred, ancient place where the veil between this world and the next feels unusually thin. By day, it is a site of science, tradition, and awe, but by night, it becomes something else entirely. Locals speak of a presence near the summit trails, a guide who no longer lives, yet still walks among those climbing in the darkness. This is the story of the Mauna Kea Ghost Guide, a tale as chilling as the air near the summit, the sacred and the unseen. To native Hawaiians, Mauna Kea is not just a mountain, it is Wakea's child, a dwelling place of gods and ancestors. Climbing it is seen not merely as a physical feat, but a spiritual passage. In ancient times, only priests and royalty could ascend its summit. Today, Tourists and astronomers come from around the world. Many underestimate the harshness of its terrain and the rapid onset of altitude sickness, cold, and disorientation. This is when, they say, the ghost appears, not to frighten, but to warn. The first encounters, a voice in the wind. Stories began circulating in the early 1980s, soon after several fatal incidents occurred on the mountain's trails. Climbers lost in the mist, hikers succumbing to the altitude, and vehicles skidding on icy slopes. One survivor, Nathan Torres, recounted an eerie experience during a solo climb. I couldn't breathe. The cold got into my bones. I started to panic, and then I heard it. A voice, calm, firm, saying, "Slow your breathing. Sit, face downhill." I did exactly as it said. 10 minutes later, a ranger found me, but I was alone the whole time. Others echoed similar tales, a disembodied voice offering direction, safety tips, even gentle encouragement. Some claimed to see a figure walking ahead, always just out of reach. The description, the man in the red parka. The ghost has a distinct appearance. Male, wearing a red parka, worn hiking boots, a bearded face, tanned by the sun, and a distinctive walking stick carved with symbols. Those who try to follow him always lose sight after a few turns. He vanishes behind boulders or into the mist. But some hikers say when they make it safely back to the visitor center, they see boot prints beside their own. Prints that suddenly stop. Who is he? The lost guide of 1979. According to local legend, the ghost may be the spirit of Kawaiahaʻo, a respected local guide who led small hiking groups up Mauna in the late 1970s. Passionate about both Hawaiian traditions and mountain safety, Kawaiahaʻo was known for warning climbers about the dangers of rushing the summit. In 1979, during a sudden blizzard, Kawaiahaʻo reportedly led a group of 4 tourists toward safety, but went back into the storm when one hiker panicked and fled in the wrong direction. His body was found 2 days later, curled around the lost tourists, having shielded her from the cold. The woman survived. Kawaiahaʻo did not. Since then, people say he never truly left the mountain. The whispers at the summit. Some climbers who reached the summit just before sunrise describe hearing whispers, carried on the cold wind. Not yet. Turn back. The mountain is not ready. These are often heard right before equipment fails, or when someone in the group is about to suffer a medical emergency. In every case, those who listen say they've avoided danger, sometimes by mere minutes. A group of astrophotographers claimed their car wouldn't start before a summit shoot. Frustrated, they returned to base. Hours later, a rock slide blocked the same route. Had they left on time, they may not have survived. Captured evidence. In 2010, a tourist named Alicia from Vancouver caught a strange figure in one of her summit sunrise photos. Wearing red, walking with a stick. But nobody on their tour wore red that morning. Rangers examined the image, but could not explain it. The image showed the man walking alone near a closed-off trail, one that hadn't been cleared for public use in months. Others report audio anomalies on phone recordings, moments where someone is clearly talking, though no one nearby is speaking. Offerings to the guide. Climbers who believe in the ghost sometimes leave offerings near the ahualelo, a sacred marker along the trail. A small flask of water, a carved rock, a red ribbon tied around a branch. These are not acts of fear, but respect. In Hawaiian culture, a spirit who remains may do so out of duty or unfulfilled purpose. In Kawaiahaʻo's case, many believe his final promise, to protect his hikers, binds him still. Skeptics and warnings. Skeptics dismiss the ghost as altitude hallucinations, common when oxygen levels drop. But even park rangers, most of whom are trained in logic and wilderness survival, admit they felt an unseen companion now and then. One ranger said, "I always leave a whisper of thanks when I descend, just in case he's there, watching." The most chilling part? No one has ever reported feeling threatened, only watched, guided, as if someone who once loved the mountain refuses to let others die upon it. Conclusion, the last guide. Whether ghost, guardian, or figment of fear, the Mauna Kea guide is a fixture of Hawaiian ghost lore. He appears when needed, never sooner. never too late. He does not speak often, but when he does, his words save lives. So if you ever find yourself struggling on the icy slopes of Mauna Kea, if your legs shake and your breath grows shallow, if you hear a calm voice behind you saying, "Stop, sit, breathe, listen, turn only when safe," and when you make it back, leave a whisper of thanks for the guide who never left. Let's get to part 9 of the story, the haunted house of Oʻahu. Some houses remember what we try to forget, tucked away near the quieter outskirts of Oʻahu. Far from the tourist-clad beaches and resorts sits a decaying, 2-story plantation-style home, surrounded by overgrown grass and wind-worn trees. The shutters creak even when there's no wind. The mailbox is rusted shut. No one lives there now, but some say something else does. This is the story of Oʻahu's haunted house, a home where the walls echo with secrets, and the darkness seems to breathe. The house that no one stays in. Local legend places the house's construction sometime in the early 1900s, built by a sugarcane plantation foreman for his family. Over the decades, it passed through several owners, each of whom either left suddenly, sold at a loss, or vanished entirely. Neighbors have grown used to its presence, but avoid walking too close after dark. Some say they hear knocking on its doors when no one's inside. Others have seen a light flicker in the upstairs bedroom, even though the house has been disconnected from the power grid for over 20 years. The murders no one solved. According to archived police reports, one of the families who lived there disappeared in the late 1950s. A man, his wife, and 2 young children. No signs of forced entry. No bodies ever found. Only a blood-stained floor in the upstairs hallway and overturned furniture in the dining room. Their belongings remained untouched for weeks before investigators dared to enter. When they did, they reported a foul odor, yet no source could be located. One officer refused to return to the property, claiming he heard a child scream coming from behind the boarded-up bedroom. Locals began to say the house was cursed. The hauntings began with first reports. In the 1970s, a real estate agent tried to renovate and flip the property. Workers reported tools disappearing and reappearing in strange places. Footsteps upstairs while the house was locked. A sense of being watched, even in broad daylight. One electrician quit after hearing someone whisper his name while he was working alone in the basement. Another worker was found sitting on the front porch, dazed, repeating, "There's something in the walls. There's something in the walls." The woman in the window. The most persistent ghostly image is that of a woman seen staring out the upstairs window. She's described as pale-skinned, wearing a white nightgown, soaked near the hem, her eyes wide, unblinking. She's most often spotted during full moons or when it rains, just standing there, unmoving, watching the street below. Cars have reportedly swerved upon seeing her face, only to discover the house still locked and empty when they turned back. Some believe she is the mother from the murdered family. Others think she's something older, something that predates the home itself. The night screams. Residents in the area describe hearing screams between 2 and 3 a.m. Sharp, panicked, and always ending abruptly. Dogs bark. Lights flicker in nearby homes. One neighbor claimed, "It's like the house is reliving something, like it's caught in a loop." Sometimes, the screams are followed by thuds, like furniture being thrown or footsteps running down the wooden staircase. Yet, when police have been called to investigate, they report nothing. No open doors, no intruders, just silence and the ever-present chill in the air. Inside the house, a paranormal team's visit. In 2009, a small paranormal investigation group from Honolulu received permission to enter the home overnight. What they experienced has been documented on several local ghost forums. Audio recordings picked up low, muffled sobbing. Their cameras lost power repeatedly in the upstairs bedroom. One member claimed she felt hands press against her back, though no one was near her. At 2:37 a.m., their equipment recorded a blood-curdling scream, though no source could be identified. They left before dawn. None of them have returned since. The mirror and the locked door. There's a locked closet under the staircase that no owner has ever been able to open. One renovator even tried removing the hinges, but the door wouldn't budge. Behind that door, some claimed to hear tapping, as though from within. In the master bedroom hangs an antique mirror, which no one has dared remove. Those who've looked into it at night have reported seeing a child standing behind them, though they're alone, their own reflections twisting, smiling when they're not. A handprint slowly appearing on the glass from the inside. One former caretaker covered it with a blanket, only to find it torn off the next morning. Offerings left behind. On the front porch, locals sometimes leave lei, candles, or small toys, hoping to appease the spirits within. These offerings are often found moved or burned, despite no signs of fire damage. One old woman, who lived across the street for 40 years, said, "It's not just haunted, it's wounded. The house bleeds sorrow, and it remembers." Conclusion: a house that breathes. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the house on Oʻahu remains untouched. No new owners, no renovations, no children playing in the yard. It stands alone, aging but still eerily intact. Locals know better than to trespass. Visitors stay long enough to snap a picture, then quickly leave. And yet, sometimes, a light still flickers in the window. Sometimes, knocking echoes through the hallway. And when the wind dies down, the silence becomes unbearable, as if the house is waiting for anyone, to step inside again. So if you ever find yourself on a quiet road in Oʻahu, and you pass a shuttered home with a porch wrapped in shadows, listen closely. You may hear the whispers, the screams, the soft sobbing of a home that can't forget. And remember, not all ghosts haunt for vengeance. Some haunt simply because they were never heard. Let's come to part 10 of the story. The Puʻuhonua O Hōnaunau spirit, where forgiveness once lived. Now silence lingers, but not alone. Along the sun-drenched western coast of the Big Island lies Puʻuhonua O Hōnaunau, a sacred site once known as a place of refuge. In ancient Hawaii, it was a sanctuary. Those who broke the kapu, the sacred laws, could flee here and be spared execution if they reached it before being caught. Today is a preserved national park, a quiet expanse of stone walls, coconut palms, and lapping ocean. But beneath the tranquil beauty lies a stirring unease, a stillness that is not entirely natural. Visitors, rangers, and locals whisper about the presence they feel upon entering, about shadows that move against the lava rock walls, about voices that rise and fall like the wind, but speak no known language. This is the tale of the Puʻuhonua O Hōnaunau spirit, or, as some call it, the watcher of the sanctuary. Echoes of the past, a sacred place of escape. For centuries, Puʻuhonua O Hōnaunau was more than just a refuge. It was a lifeline. Warriors, lawbreakers, and the condemned would throw themselves across the jagged lava shoreline in desperation, hoping to outrun death. If they made it inside the great stone walls, they would find priests who could grant them forgiveness and cleanse their sins. But forgiveness, as it turns out, does not always bring peace. Legends tell of a young warrior who fled to Puʻuhonua after betraying his own people in war. Though the priests absolved him, his own soul refused to let go of the guilt. He died within the walls, never returning home. His spirit, they say, never left. The wind that whispers. Even today, people speak of the wind at Puʻuhonua, how it moves oddly in certain spots, even when the air is still elsewhere. Some visitors report a distinct sensation, being followed, though no footsteps can be heard. Others hear chants, low and rhythmic on moonless nights, though no ceremonies have taken place there in decades. A Hawaiian cultural guide once said, "Sometimes the air feels like it's listening to you, like something just beneath the surface is waiting to be seen." At times, the tiki statues, carved guardians that line the shoreline, appear to shift ever so slightly. Photographs taken seconds apart show shadows lengthening or eyes glinting where no sunlight could have reached. A visitor's encounter, the man in the cloak. In 2014, a tourist named Daniel from California visited Puʻuhonua alone during a quiet weekday afternoon. As he walked along the temple's great wall, he spotted a man dressed in traditional kapa clothing, standing silently near the edge of the ocean. Curious and respectful, Daniel nodded in greeting. The man didn't respond. He simply turned and walked behind a large palm tree. But when Daniel followed, there was no one there. The stretch of land was empty. The only footprints in the sand were his own. Later, when he showed a photo he'd taken of the figure to a park ranger, the ranger paled slightly and asked, "Did he speak to you?" Daniel said no. "Then you're lucky," the ranger replied. "The night patrols, rangers who won't stay long. Rangers assigned to patrol the area at night often speak of uneasy silences, where even the insects stop chirping." One former ranger, Leilani, shared anonymously, "I used to love my job until I started hearing drumming. No tourists, no events, just rhythmic pounding. It came from the direction of the temple platform, when no one is allowed after dark." She recounted how one night, her flashlight flickered and died. In the darkness, she heard barefoot footsteps on stone, soft but deliberate. When she called out, no one replied. When the light returned, nothing was there, except a faint trail of wet footprints, leading into the temple and stopping cold. The lost souls of the wall. One Hawaiian elder believes many of the souls who once sought sanctuary never found release. Some came here hoping for peace. Some died before they could be pardoned. Their energy is caught, trapped in stone and wind. A local legend tells of 3 spirits who walked the wall together. A tall man with a spear, face blurred as if by mist. A child in red kappa cloth, forever silent. A woman who weeps, yet leaves no tears on the ground. They're said to appear only to those with Hawaiian blood, perhaps drawn to their own descendants, or seeking to share their story one last time. Sacred ground, sacred warning. Visitors are strongly encouraged to approach Puʻuhonua O Hōnaunau with reverence. It is not just a historic site. It is alive with memory. Many who have disrespected the grounds by climbing where they shouldn't or mocking the statues have reported sudden nausea or dizziness, nightmares involving drowning or pursuit, electronic devices failing mysteriously. One young woman recounted how her phone, which she used to photograph the sanctuary, later began to glitch. Images on her screen began to distort, showing faces she had not seen in person. She deleted them, but they kept returning. Only when she returned to the site, lit incense, and apologized did the disturbances stop. The final vision, the cloaked spirit. One account, widely shared online, tells of an older man who claimed to see a spirit at dawn. A cloaked figure, arms raised, standing at the edge of the water. He said the figure turned, revealing hollow eyes and a mouth sewn shut with thread made of grass. It raised one hand and pointed toward the temple, as if reminding the man, "This is still sacred. This is still watched." The man left trembling, never to return. Conclusion, echoes in the sanctuary. Puʻuhonua O Hōnaunau remains one of Hawaii's most powerful spiritual sites, not because of bloodshed or vengeance, but because of its role as a threshold between life and forgiveness, law and mercy. But when mercy fails to find rest, the soul remembers. So if you walk those quiet grounds and feel the wind pick up suddenly, or hear faint chanting from the stones, pause, listen, and remember, not all spirits haunt from anger. Some remain because no one ever said they could leave.